What is going on to all my you fans, and welcome back to the channel. We are here discussing this 4th season, part 1, episode 4, titled Hampsie. And look, just when your boy thought I might have figured out who the killer or killers might be, this episode might have proved me wrong. Or did it, is the question. I'm so excited to be breaking down this 4th episode because I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm so excited to be here. But before we get into it, just a friendly reminder, this is a part of a series of reviews in which I'm breaking down each episode of this first part of You. So if you haven't, go check out my reviews for episode 1 to 3. And also, I want to give a quick shout out to every single one of you all that's been supporting the videos thus far. And speaking of videos, as I'm recording this one, I haven't seen episode 5 yet. I will be watching it after. But again, the idea behind this is you would watch the episode, come to the channel, and watch the reviews, which you can find in the description of this video. Again, episode 4, I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm so excited to break it down. Let's get into it. Full spoilers ahead. So the big question in episode 3 was, what do the police want with Jonathan? Well, they're there to talk to someone sober, which is good news for him, as his story matched up involving Blue and the stealing artist situation, as they're now pursuing Simon's past, and they actually want Jonathan to help them in this case. Speaking of Jonathan, he gets the invitation to go into Phoebe's country house, in which he accepts in hopes to finding the killer. Now, Jonathan is packing his bag, and now he's watching Kate packing as well. And very interesting moment here with Kate. She's on the phone with someone trying to set up a meeting with someone that she hasn't spoken to, which appears to be years, and she doesn't want to speak to them. She hangs up the phone, and as soon as she does that, to me, I immediately thought she must have daddy issues, which we'll be getting to her dad a little bit later. But let's also talk about this moment that we get with Adam and his debt situation with the lenders wanting their money, but Adam seems to really not care. But I did find his underappreciation of what I assumed to be his financial advisor to be interesting, because to me, this is where my mind is at. Again, me thinking the killer may be fed up with the ways that these rich characters treat their hand that they've been dealt. So that was a very interesting scene. Let's talk about Jonathan, who is grabbing his things. He's headed off in hopes that when he returns, things will be back to what he considers normal. Now, as he arrives, he's welcomed by a greeting by Gemma, who has a big moment in this episode, as well as this passive-aggressive compliment by Roald, who is on a hunt in this episode. So we see Jonathan learns that there's no service where they're located, which means there's no messages from the killer, and he receives a note to head to the portrait gallery, and he takes his weapon of choice, thinking that he might be meeting the killer officially and hoping to kill them, only to find Phoebe in this sex room with all her toys. Now, we have at first this kind of 50 Shades of Grey situation, but it then quickly returns into a therapy session as Jonathan turns her down. She goes ahead and details her relationship problems with Adam, but Jonathan eventually cheers her up and promises her that Adam worships her. Important note, this is a prime example of how these characters are so great at pretending. We would think from the outside looking in that, oh, Adam and Phoebe, they probably have a good relationship, but again, they're pretending to be happy, which we'll get into Adam's thoughts in a second. But we look at how these people treat that are people beneath them, as Gemma embarrasses one of the workers, and again makes me think that this show is subtly placing these moments like this and these characters like Blue to show us as an audience that maybe the killer was wronged by one of them, and at this point they want to take revenge. And again, keep in mind all these things that Gemma is doing in this episode. So here I am thinking that Adam doesn't care about his finances, but to be proven wrong, as he's seeking advice from Jonathan revolving around marrying Phoebe, but not necessarily entirely for love, but knowing that marrying into her family comes with some rules, but also comes with some benefits like being financially stable. These characters cease to have connections. They don't seem to really care for one another, but instead they seem to want to take things from one another, as Jonathan learns that Rose was the one that actually invited him, and now he's starting to think that he's someone he should keep an eye out for. Speaking of something interesting, as I predicted, Kate and Jonathan couldn't keep their hands off each other, but we see Jonathan at first. He's able to shoot her down to focus on the mission, as we actually get a little bit of backstory between Kate and Roald, their relationship, and all signs right now are pointing towards him being jealous and taking out anyone that affects Kate negatively. But again, knowing that this is episode 4, this can't be the killer, right? It almost seems too easy, as Jonathan sneaks into his room and he finds these very kind of stalker stalkerish photos on his camera of Kate, and even if Roald isn't the killer, he is definitely obsessed with her at the very least. Now, I will admit that the whole Roald being jealous of Jonathan and Kate's development in their relationship seems to be a little bit too on the nose for me, but again, thinking about this series, they tend to be on the nose a lot when it comes to the show. But we learn that Roald and Kate go back to the age of 15 and they went to boarding school together, which was in the US. We also learned that her mother took her own life, and that kind of put Kate on this path to kind of fixing broken people, what she considers to be broken people, which might explain why she's in a relationship with Malcolm and why she's surrounding herself with all these terrible broken people. But I thought this scene was very interesting at the same time. We see that Roald is telling Jonathan how Malcolm and Simon were wrong for her, and then he points the gun at Jonathan, not knowing that the gun was pointed at him, and it almost set the scene up almost as if he was going to shoot him, but Kate comes in, almost seems to have saved Jonathan without him even noticing. And again, this goes back to what I said in my last video. I believe that there are two killers involved, and that prediction in mine may be Roald is the muscle of the situation and Kate is the brains. Well, as we see in the next scene between the two, that proves to be wrong for the moment, because there's definitely signs of him being involved with having bad intentions, but the Kate being the killer isn't online quite yet, which leads us into Jonathan and Kate. They couldn't manage to keep their hands off each other, and we do see them hooking up yet again, which I think we all saw that coming. But we fast forward to dinner time, and it's time to learn about Kate's lies. As we see Roald and Gemma mention how Jonathan may be the killer, they then shift their energy over to Kate and how she's forgotten she's one of them and mentions her dad, and they don't really elaborate and they just stop right there. Makes me think again that there's something going on with that phone call earlier in the episode, and that they might have done something wrong to someone in the past, which we will be getting into. But this conversation is interrupted because there's a game being set up by Phoebe to find the killer, and during this game we get the conversation between Jonathan and Kate, in which we learn Kate's father, who goes by the name of Tom Lockwood, he's an activist investor who's known for killing companies, but also he covers up for companies that have done wrong to others, and he's considered to be one of the most powerful people. As we learn that one of the cover-ups by Tom involved the killing of children who got cancer from some type of water situation, and that she hasn't spoken to her dad since she was 20 years old, which hints towards that conversation that she was having on the phone earlier. So going back on my prediction and my slash theory of someone who might want revenge is starting to make a little sense, right? Maybe her father ruined someone's life, and now that this person is taking revenge and taking out members of his family and even friends of that family member. Let me know your thoughts on that. But we see Jonathan is slowly but surely falling in love with Kate. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the execution of this scene, but we see Roald is finding Jonathan and his belongings only to push him out of the window. He didn't want to kill him. He just wanted to kind of hurt him, and he actually did have like a slight injury, it looks like, but also it seems like his ego was more hurt more than anything. Jonathan hears a scream. He immediately runs to Kate's room to find Kate with a knife in hand, blood on her hands, and a dead body, and that dead body is Gemma. I want to remind you all, who was the person throughout this episode embarrassing the workers, making fun of the workers? My question is that showing us that Kate killed her, or are we going to find out, as again, I haven't seen episode 5, that maybe one of the workers did it and Kate just happened to come in the room and took the knife out of her to help her friend that she really doesn't like? Let's talk about it. Is she the killer, or again, was this just a mistake and we're just walking into the moment and we're going to find out next week that she didn't kill her, or maybe she did kill her? We found out in this episode that she does not like Gemma at all, and Gemma's, rotted inside, and she didn't really want to associate herself with her. So are we looking at Jonathan falling for another killer like we did with Love? Let me know your thoughts on that. My overall thoughts of this episode is, loved it. I think this is the best episode of the season so far. I'm still thinking that Kate Father Tom did something wrong, and maybe that's going to be a key part of maybe not this first part, but maybe in part 2. And of course, Roald jealousy will be very important moving forward. Also, can't leave out the fact that Reese wasn't here, which makes me curious on what he was up to, or was he secretly there? And also the relationship between Phoebe and Adam seems to be an important plot point that we can maybe look forward to, again, maybe not in the next episode, but maybe in part 2. So overall, I thought this was a fantastic episode. We have one more episode left in this first part. Hopefully we're going to get some of those answers. I don't know if they're going to give us a definitive answer of who the killer is. Again, it could be Kate, it could be Roald, it could be someone else involved with her father's past. I really enjoyed this episode. Come back, check out my thoughts for the finale, or I should say the finale of this first part, and of course leave all your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below prior to obviously watching the 5th episode. Again, you all are awesome. Hope you enjoyed today's breakdown. Just a reminder before you all leave to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. Check out my reviews for the previous 4 episodes, or I should say 3 episodes. Check out my thoughts on the 5th episode. You all are great, and we'll catch you all on the next breakdown.